Hello, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome back to the Fangirl Files podcast.
I'm Sabrina.
I'm Madison.
Today we're going to be talking to you about Taylor Swift's latest record, Evermore.
Yeah.
But first, how are you doing, Madison?
Oh, I'm doing good. Yeah. What about you?
I'm alive. Hoping I don't have coronavirus, all that fun stuff. So, I'm good.
As good can be in this pandemic.
Abso-freaking-lutely. We're just having a good time. It's pre-Christmas as we're recording, so I think we're both in a semi-decent mood, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, when you grow older and Christmas doesn't excite you as much anymore because, you know what you're getting and, you can buy. Yeah. So it's...
I know I played help in, ordering my gifts. My mom was like, give me your Amazon account. And I was like, Mother, I know what you're getting me now.
Yeah. Right, because it shows up on your order.
And I was like, cool. And in my email. So I was like, there's no surprises.
Oh.
It's fine.
So today we're going to be talking about the Queen, Taylor Swift, the best songwriter of our generation.
Truly though.
Were you there since the first album or?
I was 7 when the first album came out. So inadvertently, I guess, because I used to watch a lot of Disney Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how Radio Disney would do their top 13 songs of the week or something, and she was always on it because Love Story was always on or Teardrops on My Guitar was always on.
Yep.
So I guess I've been there since the beginning, if that's what we want to call the beginning. But how about you?
Yes, against my own will.
Oh?
My sister Peyton, she loved Taylor Swift growing up, so she started listening to it, and so I would be in the car when the entire album would be playing. And I remember I didn't like Taylor Swift back then, didn't like in quotation marks because of internalized misogyny. I feel like everyone has had that period to where you're told you should hate Taylor Swift, and then you grow up and you're like, actually, she was really good, and she doesn't get enough credit for a lot of what she does.
Yeah, it's like that TikTok audio, for those of you who are on TikTok, where it's I fucking hate this bitch, and then it goes, no, internalized misogyny. Let's try again.
No.
And every time I hear that, I see Taylor Swift, because same. So your Taylor Swift hatred phase was early on then.
Yeah, probably since second album maybe. I don't know, when she started blowing up, that's when I was like, oh, I don't like Taylor Swift because I'm not like the other girls. And now I'm just that's stupid.
Oh, okay. See, I was there around the third album. Because when Speak Now came out, that's when people were like, oh, she only writes songs about boys.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I don't fucking care.
They're good songs.
So, I would hide that I didn't like her, and then I would, secretly listen to Back to December when I was alone, in the, sitting in the backseat of my car with headphones while my parents were driving, and she was just so good. But out of curiosity, up until now, what was your favorite Taylor Swift album era?
Album era, I have to pull them all up because she's got 9 of them now.
Yeah, this is number 9. That's wild to me. I can't believe she has 9 albums.
I think it was Speak Now that was my favorite. Or
yeah,
Fearless,
I would
one
say
of those.
Speak Now was an awesome album. In hindsight, you don't give it enough credit in comparison to the others, I think. Not you specifically, but everyone else doesn't give Speak Now enough credit. Better Than Revenge was my jam growing up. And I'm not for the misogyny of the song anymore, but also watch my feminism side go out the window every time Better Than Revenge plays.
That song's a bop though. Just the fire that
Truly it is.
People were theorizing that she would, since she's has to re-record her albums, they were theorizing that they were going to change the concept to be less misogynistic and that she was going to create a better song, but I don't think it's something that's been confirmed or even hinted at.
I think definitely there's that, and I think Picture to Burn might be another song she recreates. Because she goes on about this redneck guy, and I'm like, that's not politically correct. You can't call people that. So I'm sure that's another one where potentially she could recreate, but I really don't know.
It's going to be sad, though, to hear kind of the country accent that she grew up with not being there
gone
anymore. Yeah.
It's so funny because she's not from there. She's not from the South. So she just developed it in her teenage years, and now it's gone.
Yeah. It must be living in LA and stuff.
Or I think it might be her label that told her to have one. I'm sure Scott had something to do with that too.
To make it seem more authentic.
Yeah. But like, it's interesting you say Speak Now, because Speak Now was like one of my favorite eras, but I think before like the recent years, my favorite era was the Red era.
Red is pretty good.
Because Red was just the All Too Well bridge. Let me tell you, nothing hits harder than the All Too Well bridge when you're sad.
Yeah, Peyton was actually mentioning that earlier. She's talking about, Peyton is my sister for all you listeners who aren't part of the family, my family.
I'm part of the family.
She was talking about how much she liked that song today too. Like she was just like, it's a really sad song, but it's good. I like the imagery.
All Too Well is the song you scream in the car where you're like crying.
Yeah.
And I wonder every day, to this day, what Jake Gyllenhaal did to her to make her write this song. But, like, that was my favorite era before. Now, as she's grown, I think my favorite era, while Folklore and Evermore are two of my favorite albums she's ever put out, and they're probably my favorite overall, I think even before that, Reputation had to be my favorite thing.
I wasn't a big fan of Reputation. I liked the concept of it, the fact that she was making fun of the media and making fun of
that was my thing with it.
Yeah.
Because, like, I agree with you in the sense, like, people say that Reputation seemed the most factory produced as opposed to what she writes. And I agree, it does give off that vibe. So if that's what you're thinking, then I, like, agree with you. But
yeah, more so, like, I liked how she was just, like, taking how the media was portraying her and being like, that's just a stupid way of seeing me, or, like, basically making a parody off of it. I liked that aspect of the album, but I didn't particularly like the sound.
Yeah, no, I actually really liked the sound because if you watch the Reputation tour on Netflix,
I haven't seen it.
She does it in this immaculate way, and I've never seen Taylor in concert, and that will be my downfall to this day. Like, I'm so upset that I haven't seen her in concert. I wanted to go to Loverfest over the summer, and of course COVID canceled that. I was gearing up to buy tickets.
Aww.
So, I mean, no, I loved Reputation for the fact that she went and basically did one big fat middle finger to the media.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, and I think I hated this song when it came out because my favorite song on the whole album was I Did Something Bad, but then when she came out with This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things, I was like shook. I was like, yes, precisely.
I haven't really listened to the songs on that or Lover. Folklore really pulled me back into the loop.
I truly, like, if there was ever, before Folklore, like, I have a playlist now dedicated to Folklore and Evermore because they're actually my relaxing study songs to pull from.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Now.
Yeah.
But if there was ever an album that I listened to on straight repeat, and I don't listen to full albums that way almost ever, but it was always Reputation. That I went back to, and I was like, you know what, I'm in a badass mood today. I'm going to listen to Taylor.
Well, I remember when I was rooming with you too, like, it would always tell me about, like, you know, something about the witches and burning them, like that line.
Yeah, because I was reading this book of poems called The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one by Amanda Lovelace.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And it was like, and I would just equate that with I Did Something Bad. And I was like, perfect. Folklore really pulled me back into being like, wow, this is kind of reminiscent of the old Taylor that everybody loves. And I kind of like the way she's evolved into, like, this new badass, confident Taylor.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that she's taking the time to kind of pull back and show us what she's really wanted to write all these years. And I think that that's why I love Folklore and Evermore this much.
Yeah, I can agree to that. It feels like... Somebody said in a YouTube comment, it feels like a bunch of, like, books that are just, like, opening and, like, telling their stories, and, like, you're just standing in this ancient library and listening to these tales being told. I thought that was a really good description of Folklore.
Because she says a lot of these aren't stories about me. Yeah. Some of them are, but some of them are stories about my friends, things I made up, things I read. So it's like she takes the time to tell us these stories, and it's so soothing and it's so beautiful.
Yeah, and you can, like... The fact that she dropped Evermore too, just like is a testament to that she enjoys writing songs for us.
Yeah, within 6 months of each other. Like, that's 32 songs. But out of the two, which one did you like better, Folklore or Evermore?
I liked Folklore better. I don't know why, I liked it more.
See, that's I feel differently and I like Evermore more, so it's interesting to see what this analysis is going to be like.
The thing about Folklore that I liked is that all the songs I could listen to and I was like, this is a good song, I'm going to add this to my playlist. This is a good song, I'm going to add that to my playlist. With Evermore, it has to the songs have to kind of grow on me. Like I have to listen to them through, and the more I listen to it, the more I actually like it. I feel like that's my thing.
Right. That was my thing in reverse. So for me, it was Folklore that I had to listen to, because it was the style of Taylor that I had to get used to, because I'm not used to hearing Taylor so stripped down. And while I think it's awesome, it's just not something most of her fans are used to up until this point. So that was me getting used to it. And now that I'm used to it and kind of like, this is the vibe and I like it and I'm ready for a chill vibe, because despite being like 21, I think that you and I are more chill than most people our age. And I'm like reaching the time where I'm like, I would rather sit in a coffee shop and read and write than do anything. And that's the kind of vibe she gives me with both albums. So now that I've settled into it, I like Evermore more. Plus I can relate to the songs on Evermore a lot more than I could with Folklore. So it's going to be interesting to see how our analysis of this plays out, because we have different opinions.
True. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and get into all the songs.
Yeah, so we're going to go in chronological order here and start with Willow. Willow is very clearly about someone who's been intoxicated by loving someone, and moreover, loving someone who is manipulative or considered kind of like, if you've read Twilight, like an Edward Cullen dazzling persona. Like, and I mean that is in, this guy can get anything he wants from anyone because he's beautiful, or because he's like this classic, like James Dean type of dude. And there's a line specifically in this song. She says, begging for you to take my hand, F my plans, that's my man. And I'm like, that's the number one sign of toxicity. Is like, she's throwing everything to the wind. Because she even says, life was a willow and it bent right to your wind. So it's like, she's throwing all of her plans away to follow this guy, and she's a little reminiscent of it, and it's almost whimsical the way she's talking about it, because she knows that this person is manipulative, but she admires them for it almost. And she knows it's something that she'll come back from, but in that moment, she wants to give over that control.
See, that's a good analysis, because I was looking at Willow and I was just kind of like, I thought it was more of like being in a relationship and just like, you know, letting somebody take the lead for a moment and getting excited over, you know, what they're teaching you, because of like, the more you say, the less you know, sort of thing, to where he's kind of teaching her and she never knew that, you know, that was all out there in the world. But now that you're explaining it, because I saw one line that was like really confusing to me, that like the life was a willow and it bent right to your wind. And it's the one before the 90s trend. Let me pull up the lyrics here.
I love how you're saying that, because I literally have, she says, I come back stronger than a 90s trend. So she knows she's going to come back from whatever this is. And she says, show me the places where the others gave you scars. So she's saying that people have hurt you and you've kind of, from that, sprouted into this beautiful person, but it's almost inauthentic.
Yeah. Because here's the line I was talking about. Life was a willow and it bent right to your wind. They count me out time and time again. So I didn't understand what that meant. That kind of shattered my analysis of it. And I was like, I don't understand. And then you were like, oh, it's an abusive relationship. And I was like, oh, that makes sense now.
It may not even necessarily be abusive unless she's talking about the same person throughout this entire album, save for a few songs. It may just be that it's like one of those things where it's like, this person is so enticing to you and they know that because of that, you're going to do whatever they would like, or you're always going to follow them. And sometimes those people aren't consciously aware of that, but they just subconsciously manipulative. So it may also be that, but she's almost saying that she's being whimsical about it and being like, you know what, this is fun and it's fun to follow you, but I'm not going to do it forever. But I thought it was like you said, it was kind of hard to analyze. Like, I had to listen to it 3 or 4 times to kind of take notes and be like, okay, this is what I think it means. And I want to make it very clear, guys, like, we obviously are not Taylor and we don't know what she's saying unless we're her, but that's how I'm taking
and I feel like a lot of her songs too, there's a lot of different ways you can interpret it, just because of like, I feel like this is the type of album to where if you have like personal experience and you kind of hear that in the lyrics, like you're kind of just like, oh, that's what that means. And if you don't, you have to like listen to it like a bunch of times before you can really understand what your take is going to be on it.
Right. Like, and we'll get into this later, I've had experiences that very closely correlate to most of this album. So I can kind of discern, like, oh, this is what this means, or like take it that way for myself, because music, like, first and foremost, is a way to heal. And I think she's done that with every album that she's ever put out. So with that, do we want to go to the next song? Or unless you have anything else to say about
I didn't have any other notes on Willow. I was just kind of like, what's Sabrina's interpretation? And I'll go from there.
Well, I feel that way about Champagne
I can
Problems.
take the reins on this one, because I posted something to my story that was like, I'm going to analyze this line by line because I love this song. So Taylor Swift said, like, in an essay about Evermore, that this song was like depicting a long-term relationship. I don't know why I put lifetime. A long-term relationship between college sweethearts who had like very different plans for like the same night. Like, obviously one of them wants to end it and one of them brought a ring. And that's kind of obviously like stated in the lyrics. Like, you have the protagonist who's saying like, I dropped your hand while dancing, left you out there standing, crestfallen on the landing, champagne problems, and mentioning like the ring in his pocket and dropping his heart and chattering it and things like that. So it's obviously like a marriage proposal rejection, but I thought it had like many different like layers to it. In particular, I thought it was about how people will often blame the person who said no rather than actually kind of like looking into the situation. So when you look at the words champagne problems in particular, I kind of looked at Genius for an annotation, because when I first heard the term, I was like, I don't understand what that means. And apparently it's some like old phrase that basically sort of means like first world problems. Like, it's a very small problem that rich people have. And I think that kind of goes back to, again, like blaming the person for like sort of I wouldn't say small issue, because it is a marriage proposal rejection, and that's kind of like, it can be shattering, and it could be due to my own internal bias about marriage. But by stating that her rejection is a champagne problem, what the protagonist is stating is that the person who made that proposal is essentially blowing it out of proportion by being like, woe is me, and she rejected me, so like my life is ruined and things like that. And I felt like it was almost manipulative too. So like, when the song starts out, it says like, you booked the night train for a reason, so you could sit there in this hurt, bustling crowds or silent sleepers, you're not sure which is worse. And I feel like, again, it's like talking about how the guy is like emotionally hurting internally, and they're trying to get away from like public scrutiny, because, you know, when you're sad, you don't know if you want a lot of people to look at you, or you don't know if you want to like wake people. But I feel like the key in that is saying like, he booked the night train for a reason, so he could sit in this hurt. And it's implying that he sort of knew that the proposal was going to fail, and he knew he would be upset, so he kind of booked the train for like to self-pity himself.
Right. Because there's sometimes where you just need to go, and like, some people go on drives when they're upset. Some people like to ride the bus. Like, I know I've done that before, where I've got on a train and just let it go back and forth. So I don't have a lot necessarily to say about champagne problems, because in the same way that you thought Willow was hard to analyze, I thought champagne problems was hard to analyze, because I thought they were arguing over like an actual alcohol issue.
Part of it. But I mean, that's kind of something I feel like it was about like mental health as well, because there's this line that goes like, the storm was once a madhouse, I made a joke, well, it's made for me now. And that's kind of implying that the narrator sort of has like mental health issues going on. And there's also the line where, let me see, I wrote this down. She would have made such a lovely bride, what a shame she's f***ed in the head. Again, sort of, I felt like it was talking about how sort of communities essentially try to like demonize mental health, or try to make it sound like, basically try to belittle people who have those problems, rather than actually like considering the situation, and considering, like she said, she wasn't ready. And here's this guy who's inviting his family members, inviting all their friends, making this big grand proposal. And it's sort of like manipulative, in my opinion. But that goes back to your question that there is a double meaning. There is another layer to the word champagne problems, because it could be referencing in the literal sense a problem with alcohol due to all the other references that Taylor Swift included within the lyrics.
Right. Like, do you think that this song may, like, the setting of the song may be in previous years, like a different time? Because in the head is a pretty not politically correct thing to say, especially these days. So it's like, do you think that, especially because that's probably about like a first world set of problems in a rich family, they may have an older mindset, or it could be something from before?
When I was picturing it, I was thinking it was more so modern terms. Because I feel like we still have that issue with like people blaming someone else for marriage proposal rejections, because we still have people who are proposing during like big like baseball games and things like that, like in front of like a jumbo screen and everything. And it's kind of like, if she says no, like she's going to get booed. Like you wouldn't say no in that situation because you're going to have to say yes,
right?
Due to like social pressures.
Yeah, it's like being on The Bachelor.
Yeah.
And like when it's like the last two girls getting proposed to, or like the last two guys proposing to the girl, and she says no to one of them. Imagine how terrible like they would feel after that.
Yeah,
so it's like,
and then people would probably blame like the Bachelor, the Bachelor, the Bachelorette, or whoever said no to the proposal for saying no. And it's like, you know, if it's not going to work in the first place, you shouldn't do it. And that's what Champagne Problems goes into as well, because the guy that proposed, the protagonist states, "You told your family for a reason." And she's also describing how no crowd of friends applauded, your hometown skeptics called it. So it's painting the scenery that this dude invited all of her friends and all of his family just to watch the marriage proposal rejection, or just to ensure that she's going to add some extra societal pressure to make her say yes. Because when she says no, what happens is that she faces the backlash of that rejection. The family is over here saying she would have made such a lovely bride, what a shame she's in the head. And the protagonist also mentions how evergreen our group of friends, don't think I'll say that word again. So she's saying that she doesn't even know if her friends are still going to be friends with her because she rejected this guy. And you should always talk to your partner about that sort of thing. I feel like that was something too that was commented on, at least in the song, because she said, "I never was ready, so I watch you go."
With that, should we move on to Golden Rush? Originally, I thought beautiful. We're gonna keep that in.
That was an ugly laugh.
Beautiful, perfect. I can't even laugh because I'm scared that I'm
oh god,
sick. Anyway, I actually like originally thought it was about her current relationship, but now I'm thinking that it's like if she were in that relationship in Champagne Problems, this guy's family was probably super rich. And so there's lines like, everybody wonders what it would be like to love you, but what must it be like to grow up that beautiful? And I can't bear to dream about you anymore. My mind turns you into folklore. And I think that this person seems almost unattainable to her. And it's almost like this rush of gold. Like it's ironic that that's the title of the song. Now I'm actually coming up with this analysis on the fly, because that's not what I have written down. But it's like she keeps saying, "I don't like a gold rush," and that could theoretically mean that like she doesn't like the wealth and just pre-assumed beauty that comes with this person, and she's daydreaming about them the whole time. And essentially says that her dreams fade into the gray of her day-old tea because it will never
and
be
she
that
says
way.
In Champagne Problems, 1 for the money, 2 for the show. I think that was the reasons why she said like she's not going. I didn't make that connection. See, when I was listening to Gold Rush, I definitely knew it was like an idolization at first, and then realized rejecting that daydream or rejecting that fantasy of the person that you had. But I didn't connect it to Champagne Problems in any way.
Yeah, being like, I don't want to love you, but I'm falling in love with you. Which would explain like why in Champagne Problems she understands that she's not ready for the lifestyle that this person has built for them. Wow, okay. Beautiful analysis.
We could also go further into I don't know. I think I liked the imagery too of Gold Rush. Even like hair falling into place like dominoes. Like I could see like just the hair like bouncing like the.
That's why I thought it was about Joe. Because I like pictured Joe in my head and I was like,
Yeah.
that would make sense. That line I think is what made me think it was about Joe. Because I originally just took it as being scared of a relationship. But like for me, the imagery is like running through a field at sunset and it's like just this beautiful golden overpass, and I didn't think about it as a literal like rich person's gold rush. And now it's just like this person is going into her head and she just doesn't feel the need to love them, but she's clearly idolizing them and clearly being like, this person is perfect, when in reality they're not perfect. And I think that's what she's realized.
Yeah. And in the text, like it's supported by double vision and rose blush, because it's implying that you have like the rose colored glasses, and so you're seeing them through like you're seeing them. I got that from like a Genius annotation, because I was like, what do other people think this song is about? But I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. I like originally didn't like Gold Rush, and it's because I didn't understand it. But when like it's when you understand the lyrics, I think that's something that's different about Folklore and Evermore, especially because like before you didn't have to work to understand what her lyrics meant. You kind of knew who they were directed at or what she was talking about, and now you really have to work to discern meanings, and it just makes it that much more beautiful. So I'm like liking each song more and more as I listen to them more. But only in certain cases. There's others that I'm like immediately like, this is going to the top of my playlist. This is my cry song. Like, I love this woman. I would die for Taylor Swift. No exaggeration.
She doesn't give enough credit for being.
She is.
Well, she is starting to, but.
I also like am intrigued by the fact that Joe has helped write.
Yeah, someone was talking about that too.
William Bowery is literally Joe, because they stayed at the Bowery Hotel at one point, and now he's like William Bowery. And she's literally said in interviews, like, we know that's Joe. I don't know why he's using the name, but like we know it's him.
I see. Somebody was actually saying, like, imagine like you're writing songs about your ex, and now you're writing songs with the person that you love. And I was like, that's so cute. That's growth right there.
Yeah, I saw that too.
All right, 'tis the damn season.
This entire song is literally about the high school ex-boyfriend. She's staying at her parents' house. And there's the one line that the road not taken looks real good now. So this implies that this is someone from the hometown. And it may or may not be about Taylor herself. But like in general, the narrator of this song is implying that she left to go pursue her own dreams and her own career, whatever she left for, whether it be college or work or whatever. She left, and she clearly left behind this person that she was deeply in love with. But she knew it was what was best for her, especially because this person hurt her. And she says, I won't wait if you won't ask me to stay. So it seems to me like this person expected her to wait for him or them. And she said, but you didn't even ask. So why should I stay? It's just like, remember how you watched me leave? I escaped it too. And we could call it even implies that they hurt each other. So I'm assuming that part of the reason that she left this old hometown in the first place is because she was hurt by this person and wanted to escape that in the town and go start a new life. Now she's willing to, because she's stuck at home, go and be like, okay, we can be together, and then it'll probably hurt you, but we can call it even to do that. And like, we were as messy as the mud on your truck tires. So it implies that going back is going to hurt each other, but leaving is going to hurt even more. And she even says, the only heart I'm breaking is my own, to leave the warmest bed I've ever known. So she really did love this person, but it clearly is not best for them to be together.
People were theorizing that Dorothea is connected to this song.
Really? Oh, I see that, because I analyzed Dorothea. That's actually...
Yeah,
that sounds like it's from their point of view.
But what I but they were saying that the protagonist in "'Tis the Damn Season" was someone who went and they got fame, and then they returned home, and they came back to like their lover, and they're just kind of like, because and they say, she says in the song, so I'll go back to LA and the so-called friends who will write books about me if I ever make it.
Right. That's the line right before I wonder about the only soul who knows which smiles.
Talking about probably how you go down the red carpet and you've got like that big smile on your face, but like you're kind of like, I don't want to be here,
Right. Or like I've heard from a lot of YouTubers like that I listen to their podcasts. They say a lot of people in LA are very fake with one another just to get noticed. And I would assume that it's the same way in like musical circles, especially when you're just starting out. And so she probably is constantly putting on a face and knowing that there's only one person in this whole world who knows her well enough to know that that's fake. And that's the person that she's talking about in this song. And I didn't like it originally either. But again, it was one of those things where it was like, as I listened to it, it was perfect. So with that, tolerate it.
Do it.
I'm going to go off.
Yes.
For a minute here. People say the All Too Well bridge is what makes them bawl their eyes out. It's what they scream and cry in the car. Tolerate It was the song that made me want to curl up in a ball and start shaking and sobbing. I could not handle this song, but it's my favorite song on the entire album. And I think that's because it hits so close to home, not only for me, but for so many other women. Because the entire thing is about what is a very emotionally available, there would be no need for this song. This whole song is about a very emotionally unavailable person in the narrator's life. And it just says, I sit and watch you and notice everything. So clearly she knows him, and I'm going to assume, for the sake of just everything being simple, that this person is a him. Because usually it's men that are stupid, let's be honest with ourselves. And she seems afraid of him, because she says, I wait by the door like I'm just a kid while I watch you. And, that's what a kid does for their parent. You shouldn't be timid and standing by the door for your partner. They should want you to be in the room. And she says, if it's all in my head, I need you to tell me. And that implies that things like that had been said to her before. Because why would she think that those feelings were all in her head? This person at some point must have said to one insecurity to her and been like, no, that was in your head, that's not real. Which, it's not cool for someone to invalidate your insecurities in any respect. Like, Madison knows this. I've been through this, where it's like, they say, you're insane. Or like, that's not real. Or like, what are you talking about? Of course this is how I feel. And then they don't pay you any mind. Or, like she says, I lay the table with the fancy shit and watch you tolerate it. Like, so many nice gestures that just get overlooked. And this person was probably also at least emotionally abusive, because it seems like they criticized her a lot just because she says, I polish plates and sit and listen until they gleam and glisten. So this implies that she's listening to him about all of his complaints, and then she says, I take your indiscretions all in good fun, but I greet you with a battle hero's welcome. So that just implies she will always listen to him, and she will always be there for him. And she thinks that he hung the earth, the moon, and the stars, but he just sits there and criticizes her and everything she does, and she just laughs about it because she's like, oh, that's just how he is. This song, I think, isn't about being stuck in it still, but it's about writing it all down so that you can let it go. And so I think my favorite line in this whole song is, I made you my temple, my mural, my sky, and I'm begging for footnotes in the story of your life. And again, you can attest, Madison, I've done the very same thing. For a very long time, I was in that exact situation where I would do things and say things and just hope that I was doing the right thing for this person. And it was the right thing, and it always made them happy, but what did I get in return?
Get blocked all the time.
Shit. she says in the song, while you were out building other worlds, where was I? Drawing hearts in the byline, taking up too much space and time. And that's how it feels to be in a relationship like that. Too many people that have been in relationships that have hurt them that much. There are people that never recover from those relationships. There are people that need therapy to deal with those kinds of relationships. So I think a song like this is extremely powerful. And she says after that bridge of, what would you do if I took this dagger in me and removed it, or gained the weight of you and loosed it? And that's what relationships like that are like. It's like you're gaining weight because and it's literal and figurative, because usually when you're in a relationship like that, it stresses you out to the point where you want to eat because you have nothing else going on in your life. And that may just be me. But you feel isolated and alone, and you're just eating to fill a void that you don't know where it's coming from, because you think this person loves you. You think that this lack of attention and you doing everything for them and just being able to be in their presence once a day or once a week or whatever is enough. You think that that's what love is supposed to be, especially when you're young. And the way I picture this song is this girl is a 20-something and this guy is maybe 35, because she says, you're so much older and wiser. And I think that's a lot of the time where it comes from, because it's like, if they're older than you, or if they think they have a leg up on you in life, they're going to crap on you. But she also says, when she asks, like, what would you do if I took this dagger in me and removed it? And like, she says, believe me, I could do it. She understands that her love should be celebrated and this person is tolerating it. And that's how she knows she should leave.
That song was like, I didn't like that song at first, and then I actually like listened to it further and I loved it. But I saw it kind of from like a daughter's point of view too. As you were saying, it doesn't just have to be romantic relationships, like a daughter with her father and everything like that.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt your listening experience so soon, but unfortunately, during editing, we found that there was a severe lag in the audio. So it sounds like me and Sabrina are talking over each other for some of the songs. And given last time we had really bad echoey problems, we both didn't want to post something that would be completely unlistenable for the second episode. So I'm really sorry that that happened for this part of the podcast. I'm really glad that it wasn't for the complete album review and that we actually have something to post this Wednesday, but that's sort of why the rest of the songs aren't here. We'll go ahead and finish our album review, re-record it, and post it as soon as we can. But I just wanted to sort of let you guys know what was going on with this upload itself. So thank you so much for your patience with us so far. We really appreciate all of your support. And if you had opinions about the songs that we listed, or the songs that we haven't gotten to, go ahead and send us a DM. Follow us on Instagram at Fangirl Files Podcast, and we would love to hear from you soon.